The 417Gamers is a group of board, tabletop, and card gamers in the 417 area code. This is the podcast. Welcome to the 417 Gamer Podcast, episode 30, the one with Agricola, all creatures big and small, and Nick. In the 4, we look forward to 4 things that we are enjoying in the 417 area. A Christmas Carol at the Springfield Little Theater, Bagwell lights, Gardens Aglow, and playing games. You'll find out. In the 1 topic of the show, we review the worker placement farm management game, Agricola, all creatures big and small. And in the 7, Nick comes back on and he answers the 7 questions of the 417 Gamer Podcast. Without further ado, the 417 Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the 417 Gamer Podcast. My name's Rick.
And I'm Andrea.
In the 4, we like to look at 4 things that we are enjoying or looking forward to in the 417 area. Andrea, what do you want to start us off with?
The Gardens Aglow at the Botanical Gardens. It is November 29th through December 29th. Mm-hmm. And they usually run Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can go to the Japanese Stroll Gardens out on Scenic. I believe that they are only open in the evenings, obviously, for the Good Gardens Aglow after dark. Usually from like 6 to
Round
8.
dusk.
Yeah. 6 to 8 usually is when they do it. I'm really excited because it'll be our first time to go. We did not get to go last year. No. And the weather's quite a bit warmer this fall than it was last fall. And you have all the way until the end of December to make it out there.
Yeah, December 29th, I think, is the last day that they do that.
Yes.
Another thing with lights, Bagwell lights. That's my uncle. He puts on his Christmas light display. It's over by the Battlefield Mall, 2000 East Cambridge. Mm-hmm. He's got it's industrial computer strength controllers controlling all of his lights, and the lights now span over 8 yards. The main display with the animatronics, the blow-up inflatables, the train, and all that stuff is in his yard and my late grandparents' yards. Mm-hmm. He starts usually Thanksgiving night, turns on the light, starts going, and he continues to work on it all the way to Christmas.
Yeah.
And it'll keep on going until New Year's night.
Yes.
And it's time to pack it up and put it away.
And if you're interested in going, they run every night of the week. We usually go on a Monday or Tuesday because the lines are shorter than they are on the weekends.
And we'll be there for the holidays anyway. Christmas Eve is when we'll be over in that area. Andrea, one more thing you're looking forward to. A
traditional play, a Christmas Carol, the musical. This is going to be downtown at the Springfield Little Theater. It runs November 22nd to December the 8th. And a friend of ours, Hawk from the gaming group, is actually one of the ghosts.
He's the ghost of Christmas Present?
Yes.
And
Sandwich Board Guy.
Yeah, I'm excited for Sandwich Board Guy.
I'm not familiar with that character.
Hawk's a good guy. He runs Geekmas, which we talked about in the last month's episode. We only do 4 things, so we're kind of limited, and we really wish we would have caught this one on the last one. Mm-hmm. We hope you got to see this, because when this comes out, December 20th, we will have seen it. It would have been a great show. We're very proud of you, Hawk, already.
Yes. And be sure and support your local community theater.
Absolutely. And then finally, playing games. That's what I'm excited for. The 4th thing, I loved our wedding. We had a great time. I liked going to Cancun for another person's wedding. And I'm excited for the cruise that before this we're recording right now, trying to get all that stuff in so we have episodes.
Yes.
But when we get back, I want to sit down and I want to play games.
All right, let's do it.
We've got many games on the back burner that need to get played.
Mm-hmm. Some still in the shrink wrap.
And we have games on the shelf that need a second play so we can decide what to do with them. Because like we've talked about, we are at capacity.
Yes.
And I've got currently probably a dozen games we're already in the process of finding new homes for. But on top of that, we have probably another dozen that need a second play to see if they're going to stay.
Yeah.
And then we probably have half a dozen, maybe close to a dozen that are shrink wrapped or have just been unwrapped that we need to play.
Yes.
You have your very first Kickstarter up on the shelf that's still in its shrink wrap that we're really excited about.
Yeah, Kickstarter, you have to wait so long, you almost forget about them.
I do. I Kickstarter it and I just let it go. And that way it's a surprise when it shows up. I'm like, oh, I remember that. But that's the 4 and the 417. What do you want to do next?
Let's go to the 1.
Hey. It's reviewing a game. What game?
All Creatures Great and Small.
Yeah, Agricola. We love that one. And it fits because Nick, who comes on in our 7 questions, it's one of his favorite designers is Uwe Rosenberg. It's the designer of Agricola All Creatures Big and Small. But let's go on to the 1.
All right.
The 1 in the 417Gamer podcast is our topic of the show. We are doing a review of the 2012 game Agricola All Creatures Big and Small, designed by Uwe Rosenberg. The artist is Clemens Franz, and the current publisher is Lookout Games. We have the big box with all the expansion, but honestly, we're just looking at the base game because that's what we've played predominantly. We've got over a dozen plays of it under our belts, and we just started, dipping our toes into the new buildings, and those are cool. But we're looking at just the base game, and is it worth it? Worth your budget? Does it stack up? How does it do? What does it do? You can actually get just the base for about $25 over at Noble Knight Games. I'm looking online. But I'm looking at the Gamers Guild, and you can get the big box that has all the expansion tiles that we just alluded to for about $31 at the Gamers Guild.
Which I think is definitely worth the $6 if you're going to get it.
I agree. Agricola All Creatures Big and Small is a 2-player version of an older game, just Agricola. Agricola is a deep strategy game designed by Uwe Rosenberg where everybody has their own farm, and to do anything on your farm, you have to take your people, aka workers, place them on action spaces, and that's the only... action spaces are limited to 1 worker per space. So if I took the gather food action, you can't have it. If I took the fishing action, if I took the go get pigs action. Well, in Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, it distills that down to everybody has a smaller player board, and the action board is kind of small as well. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I think there's about 14, maybe 15 spaces that are potential that you can go and place one of your workers.
Which, when you think about it just being a 2-player game, you have a lot to choose from.
Yeah. And so worker placement basically means you have a pool of people to go do the things you need to do. They're your workers. There's 3 blue versus 3 red. You start with a little plot of land where you have a little house that can house an animal as a pet if you wish. And you have 9 yellow sticks off to the side that can be used to be fences, but you can't build them without material.
Right, and you have to go get the material to build your fences or to recruit your animals. You cannot get animals first and put them on your board other than in your house, or they will run away. One option is to buy a trough and put it in a field, and that will keep the attention of one animal from running away. But that will do you no good at the end of the round, because if you are going to use the make babies function, the babies will just run away.
Yeah. So you start with a little tiny plot of land. As an action, you could expand your lands with another strip that has 3 more plots or little squares. Then you have an action to go get wood or stone. And then you have an action that can build fences with wood or build walls with stone, and that's how to cordon off your fields to keep the animals. Because once a space is cordoned off, every square within that field can house 2 animals. Although, if you build the
Trough.
it'll double the capacity. And you can put 1 trough per square. So if you have a space cordoned off that is 3 squares, and you put one trough, you went from 6 to 12. And if you put another trough in another square, you went from 12 to 24. And I know it sounds crazy, especially for your first couple games. You're like, there's no way I will need this space. But when you go to a pig or a sheep strategy, those suckers multiply.
And the spaces where you go get to animals, there are 4 squares to choose from because there are sheep, pigs, cows, and horses. And if no one takes that action, another animal gets added.
Yep.
So it is possible for one place selection where you would go to have many sheep or several pigs.
So many pigs.
That when you take them, you have to have a place to put them, or they run away.
So everybody has 3 workers, each player, and you alternate turns until the end of the round. At the end of the round, you collect your workers, and for every animal you have more than 2, or have at least 2 of, you produce a baby. And as long as you can house it some way or some form, it adds to your farm.
This is the only complaint about the game that I have. If you have 8 pigs, at the end of the round, you only get 1 more baby pig.
Well, that's how you farm.
It's not how that works.
Yeah. If you have 5 pigs, they make 1.
No. It doesn't matter if you have 2 pigs or 10 pigs, you're only going to get 1 baby per round.
Yeah.
Which I disagree with, but I'm sure there's a reason he designed it this way.
The game is limited to 8 rounds. After 8 rounds, you score it up. You get a point for every animal you have on your farm. Then you get bonuses or penalties depending on how many of each animal. If you have at least, I want to say 4 horses in your pens, there's no penalty. But if you can get it up to like 6 or 7, you get a bonus point. The additions you put onto your farms, if you can completely use those additions, that gives you like 4 more points. And then you have the potential buildings you can build onto, and those have their own points. Some have points on them, and some give you points, conditional points. Like storage will give you half a point for every resource you have at the end of the game, which neither one of us have done very well with that, but I don't think we're geared for that strategy.
Well, it doesn't work for the theme for me. I am making the best farm that I can, and
store all the stuff you got.
I would rather make a traditional farm where my materials go to make either fences or buy more animals.
So, whenever we review these games, we review it with 5 different criteria. We talk about presentation, how it looks on your shelf as far as both your collection and a retail setting. And how it looks on the table. Do people talk to you? Do they ask things about it? Then we look at the components in the rulebook. We look at gameplay, how intuitive is it, and if it had more player count, does it scale very well? We talk about the theme and how it's integrated in the game. Does it speak to you? Does the theme fit and everything? Then we talk about the it factor. How much do you want to play that game? Andrea, let's look at presentation of Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small.
Well, there's not a lot to look at there. I will say that the meeples for the animals are super cute. Really like them. I have painted mine because the cows and the horses were the same shade of brown, and the pigs and the stones were the same shade of black and same size. So I had to paint them up a little bit, which made me happy.
And then you want your pigs spotted too.
I did. So I really like this game. So it is one. So my brain is wanting to give higher scores than maybe I should.
Yeah.
If I'm being, fair, honest and fair, I'll go ahead and give it a 3.5.
3.5.
I did have to paint components to make it user friendly for myself.
Right. So I'm right there with you as far as I think the painting yourself and all that stuff detracted from it a little bit, but
I like it more now because
I know we're
they're
in the
mine.
Midwest, and maybe that's what sings to it. But every time we've pulled this out before, if we were waiting for people or we did a teach earlier this year, whenever they did, we were promoting for Moon City Con. We taught this as a 2-player game, and Everybody, when they looked at it, I don't know, maybe there's that romantic view of running the farm, but then you don't have any of the smells or the effort that's put into it. You can just sit at a table. So as far as components and that's components. If I'm looking at presentation, how it looks on our shelf, and the yellow kind of helps it stick out a little bit, and Clemens Franz's art sells it for me a little bit here and there. I'm gonna go 3.6, just a little bit above yours.
All right.
I $1 bobbed you. I'm sorry. Now we get into the components, which you alluded to. The cows and horses are very, very similarly colored. The cow maybe has a little bit deeper chest. The horses maybe a little bit leaner. And we have a newer version. I think ours is like a year or two old, but not by much. The characters, the meeples, look like farmer meeples. The boards are nice cardboard. They're not cheap little mats.
And we've really played this game a lot, and there's been, no wear and tear that I can see.
We've played it. We've lent it to friends. It was in the Moon City Con library for lending, and I saw it go out at least once or twice. Whether actually got it checked out by the app or not like they're supposed to, I don't know. But rules and components, I'm going to put this at a 3.75. I think this is a strong game. It's not amazing, but for a nice two-player game for the price point, I think 3.75 is pretty reasonable.
I would agree once you bring up the price point again, especially for the big box that we have. There's a lot of game in a little box, so 3.75 seems pretty fair to me.
Okay. That brings us to the gameplay. We've talked about worker placement. I think the gameplay is what shines for me in this. Every turn, I'm thinking on how I can make my farm better, how I can send my ranch hands out to go gather the material or animals that I need, or even build a building. I don't build near as many buildings as you do usually, but the gameplay sings to me. I think everything is very succinct and goes along with what I would expect, or maybe didn't even expect from a game like this.
Yeah, it's I think you use the terminology. It's a very tight game.
Yeah.
There are only 8 rounds total.
8 rounds and 3 turns each round.
And I'm wishing for more turns, because by the time I get my stuff ready to do stuff, the game is over. And you can't really make many mistakes.
No. If you make a mistake, there's some, especially with seasoned players, we've played it enough. There are sometimes if one of us makes a boneheaded decision in the first round, you're like, oh, that might have cost me the game.
Yeah, right away.
And we're usually nice enough to where, hey, do you want to back that up? Or, hey,
you sure you want to go there?
and maybe they're trying a new strategy.
Right.
By all means, if you're doing that and it's not either one of us trying to be mean, we're just like,
yeah. Because you can't just throw away turns without paying attention in this game, which I think is one of the reasons you like it so much. I do. And because that puzzle's really got to be
gameplay. I love the puzzle. For me, this is a 4.25. No, this is going to be a 4.4. It's not quite a 4.5.
It is a 4.5 for me, because even when I'm done playing the game, because I'm not as have the strategy that you do, I get distracted by my building my perfect farm. So you usually win point wise, which I guess is the point. I want to go again. And even though we've played this game over and over, sometimes back to back, I still want to play again.
All right, you've talked me up to a 4.5. 4.5 for me as well. Then we go into theme. The theme is running a farm. And running farms is not easy.
It is not.
And there's a lot of times when you're, we have friends and extended families that have had farms and gardens and whatnot. And it's not easy. It's very tough work. And I know the game makes it feel a lot easier, but there's still some rounds that you're agonizing on how to maximize the space that you have in your farm.
Well, at least I played the Agricola All Creatures Big and Small first. Then we played the original Agricola game.
Yeah.
Which is this game on steroids. It's huge. There is so much more going on, and that game was punishing.
Yeah.
I mean, this one is fun. That one makes you think being a farmer is not a good way to go.
Is that Agricola more thematic than this one?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think so.
Okay, so you're talking me down.
But this one is just the right amount of. This is more hobby farming, and
this is Briar Horses and Ertl Farm Toys.
Yeah, the original Agricola is more Dust Bowl and the Great Depression.
Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah.
Tom Joad. So theme, where are you at?
Oh, I have 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah, I really, really like it. And the theme is really there for me.
Okay. You talked me down to a 4.2. I was at a 4.5, but if you feel like that is thematic, and I think Agricola is really pretty thematic. As far as Euros go, viticulture is kind of one of my shining examples of theme. You have that plot, that vineyard that you got to go out, You were inherited a piece of Tuscany, but you have very little you were left with. Your
Right.
mama and your papa left you only so much.
Yes.
And now you got to build it from the ground up, and it's tough. And then your first few games, especially if you play with anybody's season, they're gonna kick the crap out of you. You're like,
yes, they are.
I have like some sticks and a grape, and they just won. And I feel like Agricola is that a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But Agricola is also. I can't feed Timmy. Timmy can't be fed.
Yeah.
At least Agricola All Creatures Big and Small, you don't have to worry about feeding your people.
No, though your biggest concern is that if you don't have a fence up, an animal's going to run away.
Yes.
Also very thematic.
That is very thematic. So I'm at a 4.2 on theme. You're at a 4.5.
I am.
Which brings us to the it factor. How much do we want to play this game?
How high can I go?
I'm at a 5. This is my favorite 2-player game right now.
Yeah.
And we talked about it in the last month that we just started tearing into the expansion tiles.
Yeah.
And we've played other 2-player games, and we thought about maybe reviewing those. But with Nick on in the next segment, he's going to tell you some Uwe games he likes.
I'm also at a 5. I'm looking at it right now, being like, how late is it? Can we get in one more game?
We might be able to get a game in after this, but... We're both 5s?
I am, yes.
All right. So, presentation. Andrew was at a 4.5. I put myself at a 4 or 3.6. 3.5, 3.6.
Yes.
Those are numbers.
Yes, they are.
Components rulebook. Andrew was at a 3.75. I went at a 3.75. Gameplay. We are both 4.5s. We think it's very intuitive. Get off to the races. Not a hard game to learn. Not a hard game to teach.
No.
Theme. Very thematic. She talked me off the ledge. I was a little bit higher. I'm at a 4.2. She's at a 4.5. It factor. This is flat out one of our favorite games to play. It has climbed up. It's probably in my top 10. Top 10 is a pretty big deal for my games because I've played 700-800 games at this point. So top 10 material for me is pretty big.
Not just that, but oftentimes we'll have a new 2-player game that we'll just play a lot because it's the new shiny. But this one's the old trusty, dependable.
Yeah. And we've got a few of those, but it pops up more often than, especially this year.
I can't see myself getting tired of this because if I was gonna, I would have by now.
Right.
So
the total of those points. Andrew, you're 21.25. I'm at 21.05. You divide by the possible points. We get a score. Andrea, your final score for Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, 85.
that sounds good.
And mine is 84.2, but the point 2 is not big enough. I'm at an 84. That is Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, designed by Uwe Rosenberg, currently published by Lookout Games. I kind of want to play it.
I do too.
If you like 2-player games, if you like Euros, especially worker placement,
Yeah.
It belongs in your your collection.
It's not just Euros. It's also, it's also fun.
Yes.
Buy the game.
Or go play it. Go to a friendly local. Go to a gaming cafe if you have one.
Yeah, board game cafe.
Or go to a convention. Check it out with somebody. See if somebody's willing to play it and or teach it to you.
Or come to game night and see if someone will bring it.
All right, we've talked enough about Agricola.
Okay, get it out.
You wanna? Oh, well,
wait. Oh, we should probably finish this episode. Yeah, I guess let's finish this episode.
All right, let's go on to 7. The 7 in the 417Gamer podcast. This episode, we had Nick come back from episode 29. Nick, say hello.
Hello again.
We twisted his arm as he asked, and we're gonna ask him the 7 questions that I kicked out one of the questions. It's fine. It's fine. So the 7 questions for the 417Gamer podcast. Let's start with number 1. What is the earliest game you remember playing, and what was your first hobby game?
The earliest game I remember playing was Monopoly. As I'm sure that's probably a standard answer that you get a lot. I mean, I definitely loved Monopoly as a kid.
Trouble, Mousetrap, Monopoly. Yep.
Yeah, I do remember playing some Mousetrap early on too, but Monopoly, and I was obsessed, man. I was making my own Monopoly boards at all times. I would give them as Christmas gifts to my family members, as if people wanted my hand drawn Monopoly board. It wouldn't even be like cool, like it was just the same thing, but I just drew it. I just made my own board and stuff, or sometimes I'd try to make it.
That's cool.
Of like places in my city or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. As for first hobby game, so the one that I would say is probably Family Business. I don't know if you ever heard of that. I don't remember.
I think it's an Eagle Griffin game.
No, Mayfair. Maybe Eagle Griffin had a version too.
Okay.
Because there are multiple versions, so I bet you they probably had one too. But I had the Mayfair edition, and that's what I had played before. I don't remember who the designer is at all. But just a really light card game where it's kind of like Guillotine in a way, where like if you play Guillotine, where you have like the line of things that are going to get executed, it's the same kind of thing where you got all the different mobsters that are on the hit list, and you're just trying to take yours off the hit list, add other people's onto the hit list, and there's the St. Valentine's Day Massacre card that kills everybody in the hit list, and you were just trying to set up for that, basically. I played it a ton in middle school when I was the first one I got, and while that was more of a light card game, and then Catan would have been the next one, and who knows how many times I played Catan, I don't know. Yeah.
Number 2, what color do you prefer to play as?
Red. I wouldn't even say I prefer to play as red. I must be red. If there is red, it's mine. Yeah. If I'm not playing red, I'm not playing the game.
Oh, yeah.
Number 3, do you prefer to play solo, 2-player, or multiplayer games? And which do you actually get to play?
I prefer multiplayer games for sure. Like most games that play best at 4, and that is what I tend to get to play. I feel like there's kind of a cutoff where it's like 3 to 5 is one section, and then like the more than 5 is kind of the other section. And honestly, I'd say I'd probably do play in that more than 5 range the most, if anything. Like just playing card games in large groups and stuff. But I prefer those multiplayer games in like the 3 to 5 range.
Question 4, how many games are in your personal collection, estimately?
BG Stats says 262.
Yeah.
And there's some debate there. Like, there's multiple base sets, so should those be separate games? Should those not be? And then, if you include expansions, then it's like...
who includes expansions?
I know, but if you do, then it's like 800 something. But,
Question number 5. Is there a game that you have not won, but you really want to?
I'll give you 2. One of them that I haven't won, and I really want to, but I don't... It's not like it frustrates me that I haven't won it, is Ready, Set, Bet.
Yeah.
That's just... I'm never going to win that game. I have a good time with it, and it would be nice to win big, but I just... just throw out some big bets right off the bat and then just scream the whole time. And so I'm never going to win that game. Another one that's kind of like that too. I guess I'm giving you 3 here. Is Quacks of Quedlinburg. I've never won that game. I just never stop. I just keep going.
Yeah.
Unless it's 100% chance I'll bust, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
And then more serious would be Sidereal Confluence.
Yeah.
Just because I really like negotiation games, and that's a game.
When
that
Keegan was up here, you guys played that quite frequently, especially for what that game requires player count wise and time wise.
Yeah, he loved it and he pushed it, and it was a good time. I never got a win out, and it frustrates me because I consider myself pretty good at negotiation games. So that's like the real one of I'm mad I've never won that one.
All right. Let's see here. One piece of advice you'd send back to yourself as you were just getting into the hobby.
I would say just start sleeving from the beginning.
Pretty good advice, actually.
Yeah, I've gotten into sleeving my games over the last couple of years and trying to sleeve some of the old ones.
Ethan convert you?
Yeah, Ethan converted me 100%. Yep, it was Ethan. It's just nice. It just feels nice. It's not even necessarily for preservation.
Yeah.
It just gives them a more premium feel to me. I like shuffling with sleeved cards better, just kind of doing the side mash. And also why I would want to have started sleeving at the beginning is because some of those games that I have that are not so worn to where I should buy a new version, but have gotten some plays and they have a little bit of worn, and then you sleeve them, and then you got these worn cards underneath the sleeves, and it's ugly.
Yeah.
Like my Seven Wonders Duel is like that, where I'm debating should I just rebuy it and re-sleeve it, because it's a little beat up, not too bad. And I sleeved it, and it just looks a little off because it's a little.
We played Pantheons, and I don't know that I like Pantheons more than the base game.
Have you played Agora?
No.
Oh, Agora is the better expansion.
Is it?
Too, for sure. Yeah, it's really good.
And then finally, what are your favorite 7 games currently?
All right. So my top 7 games here. So from number 7, number 7's Agricola.
Okay.
At one point, this was my favorite game. It was one of the earlier worker placement games I was exposed to, and it just blew my mind. One of the things I've always liked about it is the like different moments of tension. So the way it works is like you got 4 rounds until the first harvest, and then 3, 2, 2, 2, 1. Okay? And the harvest is where you got to feed your people. And Agricola is a brutal game in terms of feeding your people.
Yep.
It's not necessarily crazy hard to do it, but it's crazy hard to do anything other than it.
Yeah.
It's to where scoring, like you're not scoring points, you're just preventing yourself from losing points in most of the game.
Yeah.
And so it's just a slog in the best way possible. You just really feel like you're I don't even know what time period it is.
Just misery farming.
It's just misery farming, and you are just. And
Bowl.
when you build a stone house, you're like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I can't believe I built a stone house in this game. And so that was one. At one point, I thought Caverna replaced it for me because I started to really like Caverna, and it's basically it's like Agricola 2.0 in the sense that it has everything Agricola has, but then it has this extra section where you're like going on quests with your dwarves and stuff.
Yeah.
And I still really like Caverna, but I have come back around to liking the tighter feel of Agricola, and that's why that's the one that stays on there for me. Number 6 is Dead Reckoning. All right? Dead Reckoning, this is probably the newest addition onto my list. I've played this one a lot. It's by John D. Clare. So same guy that did Ready, Set, Bet.
Yep.
And stuff. This is a card crafting game. So card crafting where you have your cards are in these big sleeves, and you buy these clear cards that you add into those cards, and it adds things onto the card. So it's like clear. It has, it'll add a new action onto the card. And so you have a deck. So it's a deck builder with this card crafting element where you're upgrading the cards themselves. And it's a pirate themed game. This is definitely the most thematic game that's on my list for me. I just have always loved.
I don't know. Agricola is pretty miserable.
Agricola is pretty thematic too, but I guess more why I like it is because of the theme.
I understand.
In a sense, I just have always loved pirates. I don't know. It's just a fun vibe. I like, I would play Sid Meier's Pirates back in the day and have a good time with that. There's a show, Black Sails. It's, my opinion, the most underrated show of all time.
Yeah.
About. Have you ever seen that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Just.
We tried to watch Our Flag Means Death, and we couldn't get into it. But I am excited when they finally bring out the next Master and Commander. I know it's not pirates per se, but it's still nautical.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen Our Flag Means Death. I want to because I would like a new pirate show, but I might just rewatch Black Sails.
If you like Taika Waititi's humor, you will like Our Flag Means Death.
Oh, okay.
But for us, we're hit and miss with Taika Waititi's. Because, like, what they do in the shadows, there's some episodes that we're like, it was great. And then there's some episodes where we're like, this is terrible.
Yeah. Jojo Rabbit's my wife's favorite movie.
Yeah.
Too, so maybe we'll watch that together and see. And, well, that, and then she always jokes that Thor Ragnarok is her actual favorite movie.
It's good.
And I say jokes just because she's not even a Marvel person, but she just loves Thor Ragnarok for some reason.
It's one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Yeah, I actually haven't watched it.
It's good.
It's kind of like, it's like sacred to her. Like, she can't let me watch Thor Ragnarok and not like it, you know? So
You love this game or this movie.
All right, we've gotten off there. But yeah, so Dead Reckoning, it's great. So the cardcraft mechanics going on, and then you're sailing your ship around. There's exploration. It's a 4X game. Yeah, it really is a 4X game. So you're exploring. You go into these uncharted waters and see what's there. You find a new island. There are these expansion sets that add what are called. So there's like these saga items, and it's interesting. It's like there's a campaign mode that you can play, and then there's the saga, which is kind of legacy in that it changes the game as you go. And you can reset it whenever you want. So it just kind of slowly introduces new cards, and it just makes it gives a feeling where the high seas are just like constantly changing.
Gotcha.
Okay. In a sense, it's just kind of a variable setup thing, but it's like based on what's happened in previous games. So you might go there and you see a spooky ship out in the distance, and then 3 games later you play it again, and now that spooky ship's coming after you because it added that card into there. And so it adds a cool story element that you can put in there. But even without that, it just has a really thematic feel. You can attack other players. You go up and steal their stuff. Or you can attack. There will be like merchant ships and do what pirates do and take things from the ship. It's just a ton of fun. And the components, I've only played on like a fully upgraded version and stuff, but the components are excellent. It's just...
I don't know that they ever made a retail version of this.
I don't believe they have, yeah.
And if they did, it was whatever they had at Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because it's got that weird pirate ship dice tower that you don't think is going to work, but it does.
Yes, that's another cool aspect of it. The way the battles work is really cool. I have the most recent redo Kickstarter of this coming, so I don't own this one right now. Yeah, but I have it coming, and it's in this big wooden crate that fits perfectly into a Calyx shelf, apparently, and I am so pumped.
Number 5.
Yeah, so number 5, I'd probably put it at number 5 just because of the number that's right at the beginning, but this is 5 Tribes. 5 Tribes is, to me, one of the best games in terms of there are so many ways you could play this to analysis paralysis forever.
Yeah.
I didn't even say that sentence good at all. I hit a deer last week. Let's correct that. And I think I hit my head or something. I don't know. So I'm a little
okay.
Off. But
we word hard sometimes.
Yes, exactly. But so, I mean, you can let yourself fall into AP in that game hardcore. Or you can really just vibe. You just kind of grab a spot and see where it takes you and do the action. And it's fun both ways.
Yeah.
And so if you're playing with a group that can play really tight and where you're outbidding each other for the turn order because you see that killer move off on the board, or you're just kind of letting things be and you guys are just having fun moving the guys around. It's such a cool mechanic. The way it works, it's the Mancala mechanic. Yeah. So you pick up all of the meeples off the board and you drop them along, and wherever you land, that determines which action you're going to do. There's 2 parts of it: the space as well as the meeple that you left with at the end, the color of the meeple. There's 5 of them, the 5 tribes.
Hey.
And they just score in different ways, basically. There are these genies that you can purchase that give you new special abilities, and there's resources that you can collect and turn in sets for points, and that's pretty much it. But it's just such an elegant game. There's just so much to think about. Like, every move that you do, because you're picking up all these different color meeples, and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to drop that there because that leaves an open spot for Rick to do this on the next turn and stuff. Or you can just vibe and just do it, and it's just fun. I love 5 Tribes. I always have. That's designed by Bruno Catala from it's a Days of Wonder
game.
Yeah. Number 4 for me. My number 4 is Le Havre. So, or Le Havre, or Le Harbor, Le Havre. Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey
Yep.
Oswald is your favorite.
This is my number 4. So this is another Uwe Rosenberg. I don't think I mentioned that Agricola was designed by Uwe Rosenberg earlier. He's my favorite designer. I collect all his games. I'm getting really close, missing maybe like 4 or 5, but I own a good 50 or 60 of his games.
Yeah.
And this is one of the best, maybe not the best. We'll see if
no, it's not.
It's not the best.
No.
But Le Havre is my.
I don't think you have his best on your list.
You know, Bonanza, my number 1.
Hey,
no.
I will be impressed.
Yeah, Bonanza's good, but it's not making my top 7.
I understand.
But no, Le Havre. So Le Havre is a worker placement game, but it's one of those ones where you only have one worker. You're just kind of moving a piece around, and so it only blocks that one space from everybody else. And the whole thing with the game, you're either moving the worker or you're grabbing the offer. Okay, so it's one of the earlier games that had the mechanic where, every turn you're kind of adding a couple resources onto the board, just like Agricola has this as well, where you have these accumulating resource piles that are tempting you every turn to take. And then the crux of the game is you're building all these buildings, and every building is a worker placement space. And so you build them and put it in front of you, but you can use other people's buildings. You just got to pay an entrance fee to them.
Right.
And so sometimes you might build a building that you have no interest in using, just so you can collect that entrance fee because it goes with Ethan's strategy or something like that.
Or you go sit in the building so they can't have it.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you need wood? I guess I'm going to the lumber yard.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is one of those games where, all of the options in front of you are really good. It's just, it's good, and better, as a lot of people like to say.
Which is the opposite of Agricola.
It is, yeah. So it's kind of two.
It's like, bad and worse.
Right.
Good, and better.
Yeah, whereas in Agricola, you can't do a starvation strategy. In this one, you do have to feed your people or your workers or whatever, but it's not as punishing with it. You just end up taking loans. But the interest on the loans, it's kind of an interesting mechanic where if you have 10 loans or if you have 1 loan, you're still only paying 1 coin every round in interest for them. And so it's kind of you can balance it where I'm going to do a heavy loan strategy. I'm just going to ignore the feeding, and then I'll pay it off all at the end or something like that. And so a lot of cool ways. It's kind of like, it's not as bad as Stone Age. I don't know if you've played Stone Age with a starvation strategy. That's one where you can really never feed your people and win hard. But, Le Havre's like that. Doesn't have, a ton of variable setup at all, really. Just kind of the order of the buildings and stuff, but it's just such an interesting puzzle every time that I always enjoy a good game of Le Havre. It is also one of those, I know you're probably interested to say this, that you can't play at 4 for whatever reason. It's weird.
It's got a weird player count to it.
Yeah, so you can play it at
2,
4.
3, and 5.
2, 3, and 5 are the good plays. With 4, every round somebody's only going to get 1 turn that round. And
I'd only play 5 if everybody knows the game.
Exactly, because 3 people are only getting 1 turn around in that, but it just feels a lot more balanced there. 4 is just such a weird play count for that. So, yeah, love Le Havre. My number 3 is Terraforming Mars. Okay. Terraforming Mars. This is a game I have fully decked out. I've tried to get every single thing, every promo, every little upgrade, at least all of the official upgrades I have. I know some people have made plenty of other stuff that I'll probably get at some point, but I just haven't gotten yet. But this is just a game that every single time I play it, I think I like it more than the previous play. Every single time you get to know the cards more and start to plan for that. There's just all of these interesting strategies that you can do depending on, do you want to go in this route or this route? I'm sorry, the game, it's a card-based game. So what you're doing in the game, if you haven't played it, is you have all these cards. They have a certain cost, and you're playing them, and the majority of them are either going to increase your production of all these various resources, or they're terraforming Mars. And the game has a shared thing where everyone's trying to help terraforming Mars. You get points for every time you help terraform it, so you're raising the oxygen, the water levels, and the temperature. And the game ends once all of those parameters reach the end. And so it's not a race in that sense, but you're kind of like watching the clock because you can see the parameters going up there.
But you do control the ebb and flow of the game.
Exactly.
If you want to like meander around and make it, put so much stuff on there and just like ride out the game, you can, or you can just push the clock as quickly and as much as you can.
And that's the thing is, every time I play it, it has the board state at the end, the way the cards have come out is just so different every single time, and it feels like such a different game every time. I've had games where we have filled the board completely. We have terraformed Mars, and I've had some games where there's a couple of forests sitting on there, and no one barely did anything, and the game just ended because you played enough cards that
so many people Demos down that
Demos down and stuff like that. And that's the thing too, is there's all these fun cards like Demos down. Demos is a moon on Mars, and that's just you're crashing the moon into Mars to heat it up. That's hilarious. I love that. And this is one, I love the upgraded components for that. I got the metal cubes. They feel so nice.
They do.
I have these wooden boards that you play on that holds all the different production cubes in there. Got all the plastic terrain tiles that you get added on there, and the ridiculous over-the-top first player marker that's a Mars rover. Got that sitting on the board. It's just fun. And it has such a good board presence. Even though the art on the cards is not good, it doesn't matter to me. I don't know. It's like charmingly bad in a sense because they're completely inconsistent. There's some like
but it feels like it's art from your textbook.
That is a really good way,
and that's why I like it.
I've never really thought of it.
It's the same thing with Ark Nova. Ark Nova reminded me of the school or the zoo books.
Yeah,
that you get from your childhood, and people are like, I wish it was. I'm like, no, it's exactly what I want.
That's so true. It does give you that vibe.
Yeah.
Wow, that just made it even better for me.
It just reminds me of, you go flipping through your science book, and I've already done the assignment, and the teacher's just going over what we did, so I just flip forward. I'm like,
You're just looking at these random drawings, like who made these?
Yeah, they're not great, but they're scholastics.
Yeah.
Or something Hall. What's one of the
Prentice Hall? Is that
possibly? There were certain companies.
McGraw Hill.
McGraw Hill,
yeah, McGraw Hill. Yeah, those science books. You're totally right. It does have that textbook feel.
Yeah, it's kind of that tomato soup, grilled cheese comfort.
Exactly. Yeah, so I love Terraforming Mars. I love to play draft because, despite what some people might say, I think hate drafting is the best mechanic a game can have. I think it's so fun.
That's hilarious.
I love hate drafting. And you know what? I like getting hate drafted after the game. During the game, I'm pissed. But then when I find out that Deimos Down was buried from Ethan, I know I'm referencing Ethan a lot. I play this game with Ethan almost every time. I'm mad, but it was fun. So, love Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, don't let Ethan have Deimos Down.
All right.
He will use it. And you will lose plants.
And never use Search for Life.
No.
Search for Life. I actually saw it happen once. It happened a couple plays ago. Search for Life happened.
Yeah.
It's this one card where every single round you flip over the top card, and if it has a certain tag on it, a microbe tag, then you have discovered life, and you get like 4 points.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I've played
this game. It's a one-time, but you have to pay to use it every time.
Yep.
The only time I potentially use it is if you need a stall tactic at the end of the game and you don't have enough blue cards.
Right, but, I mean, yeah. Of all the times I played this game, somebody always plays it every time, and we just laugh every time because it never happens. You don't discover life. And it's also, because it's specifically microbes, it's great. You'll flip it over and it'll be like penguins.
Yeah.
You're like, nope, no life. Like, it has to be like microbial life. It's awesome. So yeah, that's Terraforming Mars, my number 3.
Number 2?
Number 2 is Blood on the Clocktower. Alright, so my number 2 game, Blood on the Clocktower. This is, in my opinion, the best social deduction game. Playing this game felt like such a revelation. I've always loved social deduction games. Resistance is still a game I really love.
Yeah.
And grew up playing Mafia or Werewolf. We always played as Mafia.
We ruined a couple marriages with the Resistance in our game group.
Yeah, I've definitely made a couple people cry with some games of Resistance, for sure, unfortunately. You ruined some marriages, though? Oh my gosh. I've heard of people getting...
At least 2 different people came into our game group married, played the Resistance, and within like 3 to 6 months were no longer married.
Oh my gosh.
And I know I'm using correlation as causation, but you know what?
You think it started some stuff?
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, another game that's like that is Lifeboats. You know, I got a friend who got uninvited from a wedding because of lifeboats. That was literally the last time he saw his friend that was getting married, and then he wasn't invited to the wedding.
I'm sorry, because that was probably, if it was Logan's copy, that was what I sold him.
It was absolutely Logan's copy. So that's your fault.
Good job, baby.
You're destroying friendships.
And marriages.
Lifeboat's a good game. But all right, we're talking about Blood on the Clocktower, though. Blood on the Clocktower is the best social deduction game, in my opinion. There is so much to it. It's got such an interesting design where every single player, you know, there's the hidden demon, and everybody has their own secret ability that lets them see some stuff and lets them have some influence on the game. But it has all these mechanics where the information that you gather can be wrong. You could be drunk. You could be poisoned. So there's all these levels of uncertainty. And what's really cool about the game is you're kind of weaving together these different worlds, these different stories. All right, you're like, okay, in this scenario where this person is the drunk, what does that mean? Okay, well, they're the drunk, so they're the empath, and then blah, blah, and you can work through all these different, like, logic trains, and it becomes, I don't know, just such an interesting puzzle to put together, but then you add the social aspect of that. Sometimes you might think it's this way just because Rick's acting funny. All right? Sometimes you might...
And I never do that.
Or sometimes you might be the demon, and so you're trying to play on some social aspect.
I'd really like to be the demon in this game, because I've only been good rolls so far. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time being the demon. And this is one that I enjoy running more than I enjoy playing. I don't know, like to... I've always kind of been one of, I enjoy, you know, entertaining more than being entertained, and like this game lets me do that, where I'm just gonna create an experience for everybody, and I get to see all these crazy things happening and have a hand in it, and it's pretty cool. One thing about the game that's great is that there's no true player elimination, so the players that are killed are still fully a part of the game. They can still talk and whatnot. And then one thing that, you know, some people don't like is the person who's running it, the storyteller, really does have a lot of influence over the game.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I storytell, I do everything randomly, even though you're not completely supposed to. Like, I just do everything randomly, or...
Depending on your mood and kind of players, too.
Yeah, depending on the players and stuff, but I try not to ever, like, think, okay, this would be good for this thing, so let me do this and stuff.
Yeah.
Just kind of more reward the players for good play rather than trying to hinder the team that's doing the best.
Yeah.
But you know, you can totally play with a group where you need to have that balancing act, because there's some roles where sometimes it might come together where there's absolutely no way this one group's going to win right now. It's just from the randomness there, and so the storyteller can kind of help counteract that and still make it an enjoyable game. You know, this is one, you know, I played it first at Origins Game Fair, and it was a great convention game. We're running all around the convention hall in this big room, you know, hiding. I'm crawling under, trying to eavesdrop on people and stuff. It's just a good time. I could talk about Blood on the Clocktower for a long time. But
how's that not your one?
I know.
Or is it because it's so new that it can't quite hit your one?
I think it's... When we talk about my number one, like that kind of hits on a completely different aspect of gaming, and I think it's just...
Well, I mean, it's Uwe's best. It's Bonanza.
Yes, it's Bonanza. So it's still negotiation type aspects. No. All right. But, you know, there's kind of like two different spheres of gaming that I really like the high social one, and then the don't talk and just stare at the board kind of games. I like them both, and so I think that's a good segue into my number one, and we can see why that's my number one. My number one game of all time is Feast for Odin. No, it's a Feast for Odin by Uwe Rosenberg. This is my favorite game. This is one of those really sandboxy games. Okay? It doesn't have a lot of variable setup, which I tend to normally like in games. This one, you know, the setup is pretty much the same every time. What's variable is just the choices that all the different players are making. There are so many different actions. I mean, on the board, there, off the top of my head, there's at least 60 actions on the board just trying to multiply the columns. There are so many choices every single time. And with that, just making one slight different decision, you get all these different permutations of all the outcomes. So there's still all of these different aspects of the game to explore. What I love about it, one, I always like a game that's doing multiple things at once. And this game, it has a heavy worker placement aspect, so it's just straight worker placement. This one kind of has a twist where some of the spaces cost more workers than others. It's kind of the twist there, so you like your workers are like a resource allotment, but then it's still blocking that spot.
Yeah, because there's 40 spots, but honestly, there's only 10.
Yeah, because they all are some of them are duplicates that cost a little bit more.
The more workers you put in it, the better version of that action you get.
Exactly. But then, yes, no, I agree.
Because you can trap, or you can hunt, or you can go whaling.
Exactly. So this is a Viking-themed game, so it's all based on Vikings, so you're hunting, you're raiding and pillaging, you're doing a little bit of farming and with the animals.
Always animals.
Always animals, yep. And so there's the worker placement where you're trying to watch what everyone's doing, making sure the different spots that you want aren't going to get taken. And then it's a polyomino game, too. All the different resources you're collecting are these polyominoes. And the whole point of the game is you start with this board and it has just a sea of negatives, of negative points. And you're placing all these pieces to cover up those negative points the whole time. Okay? It's a lot less of scoring points and getting rid of negative points, kind of like Agricola. You're doing that a little bit more. But the reason I say I like how it kind of does two things is I'm watching the worker placement, and while you're doing your thing on your turn, I'm over here and I'm doing a puzzle. I'm doing a jigsaw puzzle. All right, not an exact jigsaw puzzle, but I'm trying to figure out the best way I could fit my pieces.
Sure.
And that's so fun. I just love that. Just the little organization aspect. You're trying to fit them in. And really, in comparison to any polyomino game I've played, I mean, it's definitely the most complex one I've played. But also just in terms of a lot of polyomino games I've played, it's just the pieces are much bigger and like a smaller board, and it's just kind of, how do I fit like these 7 pieces in the best?
Yeah.
This is huge. These, it's like a centimeter by a centimeter each square is and stuff. And so there's just so many little things. And like you're placing them in certain ways where they surround these bonuses that start to generate you bonuses, and there's some restrictions on the way that you can place them. You got to cover this piece up before you cover this piece up.
So you just put money on the board.
Oh yeah, yep. You can just put money on the board. You can just throw some ore on the board. There's like certain colored resources that can't be adjacent to each other, stuff like that. And so you really have these two different things going on. You're collecting resources through this worker placement aspect, and then you're trying to find the most efficient and best way to place them out on the board. There's this exploration aspect where you can take new boards that come with a ton of negatives, but have these sick bonuses on there. So they're risky, but they're really not that risky. You have to do them. The exploration boards are good.
Yeah.
No one goes for them when they first start playing.
Yeah, when they first start
playing, everyone kind of ignores the exploration boards. And then I'm over here and I'm raking them in. All right? I try to tell people. But
you can't tell them when they're first playing. They have to learn.
You let them learn. But there's so much going on. Now, this is one that I will say, it's my number one with the Norwegians expansion. Okay? You take the Norwegians expansion, it's probably still in my top 10. Okay? But when I first played the Norwegians expansion, it just completely streamlined, or not, I wouldn't say streamlined, but just kind of fixed any aspects of the game that weren't really working. In the base game, like animals is a really inefficient strategy, and the Norwegians made that viable. Okay? Exploration wasn't really that as good in the base game.
Right.
Okay? But it fixed
it was
that
something that was a side piece to your score.
Yeah, and it really kind of makes it more of a central focus in the Norwegians expansion. This is a game that when I teach new players, I'm playing it with the Norwegians expansion immediately. I've not played the base game since I played the Norwegians expansion once. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever played, and I've never taken it out. Nice. I absolutely love it. And so I give the edge to Feast for Odin over Blood in the Clocktower. Feast for Odin is my crunchy Euro, but it still has all these thematic feels, but just in terms of like point salad, just mashing these all up. No one's talking, and I'm just doing my little puzzle. Love that aspect. And then Blood on the Clocktower is the big social game.
Yeah.
That you're lying to each other and deceiving. They're completely different games, and
They are.
if I were to, they're definitely my clear top two of my favorites in those two spheres. I'll give the edge to Feast for Odin just because I like a good puzzle.
You too.
And that's it. Yeah, that's my top 7.
All right, Nick, thanks for coming on. You've got music. You put it up on Bandcamp. We feature it sometimes in the 417Gamer in our video collage. We appreciate that.
I appreciate it as well.
You also are on Instagram.
Yeah, I have Instagram. Was it Nick Felice _?
I think so.
I believe. I don't use it too much. It's mostly anytime I make new music, I'll post it on there. But so you can follow me on there. Yeah. Let me think. Anything else for me now? I don't got anything else to plug. Yeah.
If you're ever out on in the 417Gamer area on a Thursday night, come see Nick. He might catch you in a Uwe game.
Oh, my bag's always full of them.
Yes, they are. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And we will see you guys next episode. Keep gaming in the 417. Goodbye.
The 417Gamer podcast is recorded and produced by Andrea and Rick Bagwell. The intro music we use, Kind, Gentle, Beautiful Person, and the outro music, Making Up for Last Time, was created by Origami Replica. For links to our show notes, music, and guest links, head over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Hobby Gaming Network. Until next time, keep gaming in the 417.